The next team, this should be fun. The Brooklyn Nets. Their key free agents include Kyrie Irving with his player option, Bruce Brown, free agent. They have full bird rights on him. Nick Claxton, restricted, full bird. Patty Mills has a player option. He would be non-bird. And then LaMarcus Aldridge, sneakily, I almost forgot that he played for them in the previous season. So he's early bird. And then they have Blake Griffin, Goran Dragic, Andre Drummond. Those guys are all non-bird free agents. They have Kessler Edwards has a team option. I assume they will exercise that. If they don't, that would just be a bow on top of what's already been a ridiculous offseason. Their most notable trade exceptions, they have $3.2 million left over from Spencer Dinwiddie. Expires on July 7th. The DeAndre Jordan trade, $6.3 million. That expires August 19th. And then they have a trade, a TPE from the James Harden trade. It's worth $11.3 million, and that expires on February 10th. Their best spending tool is the mini MLE. And look, we could go through their needs, which I think needs to be like wings and two-way players in general. But like the Kyrie Irving situation, like what is the most likely outcome to this? And I will say, I think it was Kevin O'Connor was on a podcast with Logan Murdoch, and I'm summarizing here. He said that KD's frustrated with the front office because they haven't gone to enough lengths to understand Kyrie. Now, I think the Nets are very culpable in everything that's happened. I think them personally trying to grow a backbone all of a sudden is hysterical because you handed your franchise over in 2019 and what, like, it's too late. If you let Kyrie go, you're losing Kevin Durant. But like, what else are they supposed to do? They've literally given the keys to you and Kyrie.
It's all just hilarious to me because there's been like a weird rivalry between Nets folks and Sixers folks ever since the Harden trade went down. And I think we're like rooting for each other's respective demise. And frankly, it's probably going to happen to both teams, but I figured it would happen to Philly before Brooklyn, not the other way around. Like, I can't blame Brooklyn for not wanting to go like 5-year fully guaranteed max on Kyrie, given just everything surrounding him. I also can't blame Kyrie for not wanting to take a short-term prove-it deal, or like if they're trying to get him to pick up his option and say like, all right, prove we can rely on you this year and we'll give you the full amount of money next year. Because all it takes is one injury and he just loses, could be hundreds of millions of dollars. Like it felt like bluffing for a while. I don't think it's bluffing anymore. Like it does not. I don't know. I mean, I would think if cooler heads would prevail, they'll do something like what's probably going to happen with James Harden, where Harden's sake, he's going to opt in and take a short-term extension because him opting in, he can actually earn more money than he could as a free agent. I think Kyrie, it makes sense for him financially to opt out and then take maybe like a 2+1 deal.
That would get him. I was going to mention that gets him into free agency when the TV money is supposed to hit again.
Right. And he's young enough still that he could. I mean, I don't know if he's going to max at that age, but like the starting contract is going to be like $40 million for anyone with.
That'll be the mid-level, right?
Yeah, at this point. But I don't know, man. Like the more we hear this, and like, I feel like Woj and Shams don't report stuff unless there's some real smoke behind it. And for both of them to be like hinting at, well, now Kevin Durant's thinking about his future too. You wrote a great column at BR when all of this started like a month ago, I think, when it was Christian Winfield of the New York Daily News who first reported like.
Which people, by the way, shout out to Christian, because people are like, oh, why do you think that you know all this? There's no way Kevin Durant hasn't talked to the front office. And now other people are coming out and saying the same thing. So shout out to Christian Winfield of the New York Daily News.
Yeah, and you were writing like if they do this with Kyrie, they're at risk of losing KD as well, which now seems to be the reality. So like I still don't buy the whole like Kyrie's gonna opt out and take 30 million less and play for the Lakers on the mini MLE. Like that, I never say never.
15+ million in salary this past year.
I know, but like. Then they wouldn't have non-bird on him next year either. I guess Russ would be coming off their books.
When I've gone on shows and they've asked me about it, or I've seen people talk about it, like, oh, they'll just sign him. And it's like, no, if he wants the actual deal, they'll be flexible next summer, technically, if LeBron doesn't sign anything. But like you have to pay LeBron. So it's like, if you really want to be able to pay Kyrie, like this is a 3-year thing that he's agreeing to so that you can gain his full bird rights, unless again, he's opting in and being traded.
Right. Yeah. So I think I'm going to write a column about it, or I'm like in the midst of writing a column about it. I think that the most logical option, if Kyrie really does want out, pick up the option, as a condition of like work with me on an opt-in and trade. And if the Knicks say no, you lock in $37 million. You can make their lives hell for a year, and then you can bounce next summer.
That's a good point. I expect it to be like a 2+1 outcome. If not, if you're asking me to pick who breaks first, I think it will be the Nets, because this is almost like the Clippers situation where it's like you're not trading. It's the inverse of it. You're not trading for Paul George. You're trading for Paul George and Kawhi.
Right.
And you're not just getting rid of Kyrie. You'd be getting rid of Kyrie and KD. I'd be fascinated by the KD trade talks.
Yeah.
I find it funny that Dame is tweeting out a picture. When players do this, by the way, people were mad at me because I made a joke about it on Twitter. I am all for this. I do wonder how like that player's teammates feel that know they would probably be involved in such a Kevin Durant. Like Shaedon Sharpe, after Dame apparently wanted to, and he's tweeting out like, more interestingly though, like people have mentioned the Suns, the team that I was wondering if they could get involved in it. And I think my answer is no. But if you're the Nets, you're rebuilding if you're trading Kevin Durant at that point. Can the Bucks use as a primary anchor like Chris Middleton to suss in or attract other teams that might send stuff back to the Nets? And look, if I'm Kevin Durant, I want to play in Milwaukee because Giannis Antetokounmpo is fucking spectacular. But the Nets also don't have to trade Kevin. And like at that point, your reputation's already damaged enough. Like send Kevin Durant wherever the hell you want at that point. Yeah. But I don't know if Milwaukee could feasibly. It would take a team really wanting Chris Middleton, of course.
Yeah, I have not put too much thought into like Kevin Durant trade scenarios, and I'm sure someone will at BR at some point this week. So God bless whoever has to write that article. I've seen people talk about Toronto as they could at least cobble together an interesting offer.
Toronto would be Toronto and Phoenix and Milwaukee were like my three favorites. Actually, I'd love him in Denver too. Imagine KD.
You get like. Man, but you're right. Like, is Brooklyn taking back Michael Porter Jr. given the back issues as the main return for Kevin freaking Durant?
No, I think you'd probably have to give Jamal Murray might be the more likely, and he's coming off an ACL injury. It'd be Jamal Murray and Bones Highland, and then every single pick that you can offer, which is not many because you flipped I think they can only trade a 2029 pick because didn't they just trade the 2027 one? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. And that's going to be the problem with a lot of these contenders is that like a lot of teams are now very restricted in which picks they can offer. I get New Orleans would be interesting because they have some of the Lakers picks left still and pick swaps. Like if things go south with Zion Williams, I know he's like supposed to sign a max extension, but if he does not, or if things go south in those negotiations, can you
Would you trade Zion for Kevin Durant for the Pelicans right now?
Yes.
You would?
Yes.
I don't know that I would do it.
Really?
Can we pretend that Kevin Durant hasn't had his own health issues the past 3 years?
Sure, but I would do it. I would absolutely do it.
All right. But Zion Williamson and stuff, though? Like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be whatever filler you need. So if it's like Zion and BI and like 6 picks, no. But if it's like Zion and Devontae Graham and whatever else, like, I don't know. I guess they would have to throw in Valanciunas probably.
I feel like this is going to be a futile exercise because, like we said, we both expect Kyrie back. What are your biggest needs for assuming Kyrie Irving? Let's just assume Kyrie's back because the whole calculus then that's future changes if he's not. Right. What are you looking at for this team to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to hell with the luxury tax. You've got to bring back ideally both Brown and Claxton because I think both are super important both for their short and long-term futures. Like if you are concerned with things going south, like even if you could re-sign Kyrie and you get him on a 2+1, like there's no guarantee this all doesn't come to a head next summer. So I think you need to be planning ahead as well and trying to keep your good young players. I mean, they've only got assuming Kyrie comes back, they have 8 players under contract right now. So they just need to fill out their roster with warm bodies. I agree with you. Wings are going to be super important, just like for every other team.
Do they even have a wing, right? There's the candidates are Kevin Durant, which, okay, fine. If you like Kevin Durant, the wing, if you want to say he's more of a combo forward, however you want to find it. There's Kevin Durant. Then there's Joe Harris, Bruce Brown. I know Roto World's depth chart has Ben Simmons listed at the 3. It's like that's what
Oh,
this team is, because
sure.
Kyrie's there, obviously, but like Ben Simmons isn't a wing. Bruce Brown's
No.
not. You can defend him, but he's not a wing. Like he's not used like a wing on offense. They need that like a I don't, and those are available in scant supply to begin with entering this offseason. But with the mini MLE, that's going to be tough to get. But they just need wings.
Yeah. I mean, what's wild about them is that if they smooth things out with Kyrie, which is a big if at this point, you tried out Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Ben Simmons, and any combination of Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown next season. And those lineups are going to cook. Like, I get why the Nets are one of the title favorites right now, but I would not, in my wildest dreams, bet on them, especially given what's happened over the last week, because I just feel like something is going to go wrong. I don't know what, I don't know when, but I just can't see this sticking together through next June enough for them to win a title.
Some of the names that sprung to mind for me that I think they could afford and would fit. And look, they could also use some let's assume they bring back Claxton. They still sort of need front line certainty where is it Claxton and Day'Ron Sharp, and please don't let it be Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Right.
And
right.
again, I don't know if do you think they can even bring back Andre Drummond? Is his market beyond?
He said, remember he got traded there, and it was like, I'm here. It's just a rental. They can't afford me.
I mean, do you think he's getting more than the mini MLE?
But no, probably
I don't think
not.
the Nets should be the one team that's spending that, though. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have to just round out their roster, and I think the competition for wings is going to be more competitive than for bigs. I think you can find a reasonable big on a min deal. So I think they probably, if they lose Drummond, maybe they're the next stop on the Dwight Howard redemption tour, or JaVale McGee, Hassan Whiteside, Dwayne Dedman. None of these names are super sexy, but
I mean, Dwayne Dedman would be great for them.
Yeah. So I think they probably spend the MLE on a wing and just go cheap with the third veteran big.
Some of the names that spring to mind for me, and I think most of these I would consider below mini MLE, except for the first one, which is Gary Harris. I don't know what he commands, but he would be great for them. Looking at, they could use either of the Martin brothers. I've said this for a few teams now, and I'm not looping them together, but they both have the same sort of positional flexibility on defense. Daniel House would be good. And look, they need multiple wings, and so you probably need to hit on some minimums. So it's are they a team that needs to enter Rodney Hood territory? Abdel Nader? Those are names that they probably need to look at. Someone should take a look at PJ Dozier, depending on how healthy he is coming off of that ACL injury. I understand any Nets fans who are listening, these are not sexy names, and I wouldn't spend, like I said, the mini MLE on both of them, but you have to also look beyond the mini MLE. If you could get Gary Harris, or even, what is TJ Warren going to get? I assume if it only takes the mini MLE, Indiana will just re-sign him, and I assume he would probably want as much money as he could get, but who knows? He would play a wing who can defend one-on-one in Brooklyn. They will play a lot.
Yeah. I have been running through, I put non-taxpayer up on Saturday, and I'm doing taxpayer tomorrow. So these are Sixers specific targets, but you named a lot of the guys that I had in mind, because I think the Sixers' biggest need is wings. So if we're talking wings, Otto Porter Jr. is another one. I would assume, because if the Warriors are willing to give him the mini MLE, he's probably just staying there. But if not, if their tax bill is just okay, we can only go so far before we're just we cannot spend this much money. And they have to re-sign Looney and Gary Payton as well. I think he probably does get at least full mini MLE. I mean, I love the Martin brothers. Gary Harris is a good one. House is the one, he's probably my number one guy. We'll get into Philly later, but I would think that he might not even get the full MLE, but I think he probably should. I don't know what Taurean Prince gets, because he's coming off a bigger contract, so maybe he gets more than the mini MLE, but he
sometimes feels like the idea of Taurean Prince on defense is better than Taurean Prince in practice. The shooting, sure.
But if you've got Bruce Brown, Ben Simmons, and Claxton, I don't know that you need
the Ben Simmons part of this is tough, because it's I kind of forget he's there because we haven't seen him play in so long. And so, you have more defense than you did last season, noticeably so.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you have Ben Simmons? It's a fair point.
I don't think they'll use like their better trade exceptions, but like the Knicks, if they're really looking to dump Cam Reddish, why not take a flyer on him? He fits into, I think, 2 of their trade exceptions. He fits into the DeAndre one exactly, maybe. I can't remember where he just gets there. And they, of course, have the James Harden one if he's more expensive. I know that contenders don't normally think in those terms, but like I'm just getting I want wings. Like I don't care like young, old, as long as they can play and there's like some either untapped upside to them or they've proven something, just give Brooklyn all the wings.
Yeah. Cam Reddish should be, I mean, again, like I think the Nets really need to be mindful of the future here because they owe their next 5 picks either like fully unprotected, just going to Houston, or pick swaps to Houston. So if this thing really goes south, they could be sending some premium picks to Houston in like the mid 2020s.
I wonder, and I guess the first round equity that they could actually give up, maybe it's too expensive for this, but like Kenrich Williams, someone's got to get him out of OKC. Well, they don't have to. I'll make that clear. He's thrived in OKC. He also said he wanted to retire there. My point is everyone should be looking to trade for Kenrich Williams. So if I don't mention him for a team, just assume that he's a trade target for that team.
I feel the same about Lou Dort too.
Do you? I'm like so much lower on Lou Dort than everybody else.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
I don't vibe with offense. Like there's like infrequent rim pressure and like spotty shooting, and he's a defensive monster. The best, I think it was David Brandon on Twitter described Lou Dort once as a big Mack truck made up of other miniature Mack trucks. I was like, that is perfect.
Yeah, I want that guy on my team.